Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, Luke Rides is back. So what you're going to learn here today is actually something quite interesting. You're going to learn how to fit a full titanium high-rise Akrapovic system on a BMW R NineT Racer. Classic superbike, classic race bike. So let's hit it. Yeah.
It's showtime.
Hello everyone, Luke Rides. So Luke Rides getting into a bit of a problem because he's removing the titanium Akrapovic slip-ons from the classic BMW race bike, but also what was happening was the valve module was coming away with the slip-on. Now the thing is that's not really what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is the valve unit stays in place. And further investigation, if you look at the two exhaust clamps, there's one clamp on the catalytic converter side, and there's one clamp for the slip-on, but there's another exhaust piece in the middle where the valve module sits. And it's as if this clamp here holds this piece in the middle where the valve module is and the valve system is, but it's this forward clamp here that then holds the slip-on in place. So we're going to give this another bash and see what happens. You're learning at the same time as you're filming. Not the easiest thing in the world. So what you want to do is, again, we're disassembling the exhaust hanger very gently. And it's very pretty as well. It's silver aluminium. What we want to try and do is not let the tool slip and then scratch that lovely bit of aluminium there, because don't want to damage it. It just doesn't look nice then, but it. Oh, no, not easy. And yeah, looks factory. It looks very pretty. Okay, so let's see what happens. The theory is now is what was supposed to happen in the first place. The slip-on has come away. Hey! One twin shotgun, Akrapovic, titanium. So we're going to undo the servo, which is this Torx bolt here with a black washer, which we need to has that Torx holding it on, and then you push it backwards. And you can see here that it was on the rubber mount was on that metal pin there. Ah, yes. So yes, you can. The whole contraption has to go backwards in order to be removed. You can't just remove it because there'll be an electrical connector somewhere. So, which we need to find a torch. That's me wiggling it off. Because what we found. Then it's going down, so it's come back and down. Back and down. And now I found the electrical connector right on the back of it. Right, so the servos come back and down, and then there's the loom that the servo body's going to connect to, and then we just got to get this off in order to release the servo. You can't feel with a pick, you know, you can't like, no. It ain't your fingers, is it? Oh, it felt like it fucking moved then. All I've done is use a pick to remove the terminal. Quality. And then out comes the servo. And then with that one undone, the valve assembly will come off.
There's the butterfly valve.
Just there. So how does the servo body do then? The servo body is going to connect to this, and then we're going to cable tie it up out the way,
probably
Right.
out the way somewhere,
Right.
and then it's going to lie to the bike.
Right in the depths of the frame of the classic BMW race bike, classic superbike. That electrical connector there, that's just there, in black, a long wire coming out of it. That is the controller for the exhaust valve. Your exhaust valve is this honking great big emissions controlling crap here that is holding back this mighty engine. Okay, this is why we're undoing now the second exhaust clamp. Being careful not to hit the frame of this gorgeous BMW classic superbike. We don't want to hit the frame. We just want to undo this piece here. It'd be nice if we can try and get a bit more light in there for you. Rest the torch up against the tyre or the beamer, and then Luke Rice can only feel the link pipe is loose. Yeah, it is loose. It's actually coming out now. You can actually feel it coming out. Wow. And away comes the exhaust salvo unit. Holy mother and... wow.
I'm sure I can get a sweep from here. You just want to film that bit, not me. You need to get where you come away with you.
Now.
Beautiful.
So we have successfully, which is crucial to removing the factory system, we have successfully loosened off the BMW O2 sensors sitting there in the exhaust system. We used a large 22-inch spanner, and effectively what you want to do is take the spanner, make sure you've got the bestest fit possible over the nut, and then using a hammer hit the roundy end of the spanner, and keep doing that until that nut releases, and then away you go. And this O2 sensor is now fully released. Well, is loose. But now we're in the process of actually releasing it from its holder. BMW quality. Wow. This is the tiniest little tool the Christ I've ever used. Don't get much leverage though. Don't get much leverage at all. So I can't like worry of rounding off the heads. Oh, what a handy tool. This little tool has literally been able to get into this tiny gap. And there's well, wow, actually the bolts, well, what you can do, is if you can just get the bolts themselves just loose enough, you can start to undo them by hand effectively, if you want to. Kind of saves time, because you know by this point, after you're starting to use tools, you're going to get a good idea of what's clockwise. Clockwise is undo in garagey speak, undo, and what's tighten. Okay, so that's the bolts for the exhaust hangers now starting to come away, and great stuff. We have a jack in position, so just a matter of now. You see how the clamp is now just starting to. You can actually just see it with the human eyes. Actually, just see it now. Just see it starting to undo. You can actually see the clamp now actually giving way to the. Oh, this one's a bit of a fucker. It's usually quite language, but when you're working on anything mechanical, you're gonna feel like swearing. It's just hard work. It really is hard work. None of it's easy. Okay. Well, we are starting to oh no! Does it fucking put it into tighten up? We don't want to tighten up. We want to undo, you bugger. No. Oh my God, Luke Christ is getting himself all confused, man. Get yourself confused. We want undo, we don't want tighten. Ah, oh, fuck! Luke tries to see what he's doing wrong. Yeah, this exhaust bolt. The one furthest away from Luke rides is yeah, it's not being very nice. It's actually putting up with a little bit of a fight to undo by hand, really. There is some sort of... Oh, on focus, iPhone. It's supposed to be an intelligent phone. Stop being a dick. Is there some sort of silver paste on the actual exhaust center clamp bolts? That area, it's very exposed to the elements, where usually this is where exhaust clamp bolts will rust. And BMW Meeyaradee are trying to give those bolts the best chance they can of not going crusty and rusty. So top marks to BMW. That is BMW engineering quality. It's all one unit. It's all one unit right from the headers all the way back past both banks of O2 sensors to the catalytic converter. So now the catalytic converter is free. The next job is to remove the flange nuts here. Remove them. And then what will happen is this entire piece, this is what we would call the headers at this point. This entire factory BMW system, which we would call the headers, is now going to come away. And make sure you're happy. And before you undo those flange bolts, obviously a professional tip is make sure you have somewhere for the exhaust headers to go, where you're not going to scratch the cats or the factory system, just in case the next owner may want it, may want to keep hold of it, in case, even though you just know with the full Akrapovic titanium system, you're never going back. Just moved on to a smaller ratchet that can just get into this more confined space. Yeah, we have... It's not bloody ideal, is it? Okay, it feels like we're definitely on the head. That's great. The head, the bolt. Here we go. Here's some force. Here's some force for you. Oh God. Okay. Really could do with a bigger tool. Ah. Okay, the bastard's not it's not moving. It's not. Obviously we don't want to damage this area either. I think that's what it's actually doing. Fucker is as well. God damn it. You bastard. Actually trying to de-shape this fin here. Why is nothing ever straightforward? And I was thinking you didn't want to cause any damage to your baby. Oh no, it was like that in the factory. That's good to know. Okay, attempt Mark II. Attempt Mark II successful. Okay, we have movement on this head bolt as well. Now we just need to take the appropriate tools and we need to go to the other side, to the second cylinder. The ratchet actually sits on the extension and is on an adjustable joint just to help us get into the this bolt here. The second bolt that's just between the head and the actual exhaust piece. That's just very tricky to get a ratchet and the socket in there. It's not BMW's fault, that's just how they design these cylinders like that for a reason. Make sure we're set to undo. And that came off nicely as well. Okay, so that's looking actually pretty good. Okay, at this point you're going to want the 12mm deep socket. Let's just undo it, break the headers away, and then just take it from there really. So what you need to now do is you need to look at the front exhaust system, the headers, where the pipes now go into the cylinders, and you have one flange nut here and a second one at the bottom. And now what you're going to do is you're just going to take your time and you're going to undo the flange nuts, and they really are they're actually nuts on a thread, which is quite interesting. They are greasy. Titanium. Ooh, this is very important. Titanium, under no circumstances, which we're going to repeat later on as well on this episode, do not get your fingerprints on the damn it, it's so greasy. Under no circumstances do you bloody get grease on titanium. Do not get your fingers on titanium. Don't let your skin contact titanium, because once you do, you leave it grease. Oh, this one's being a right little fucker. It's not just undoing. Oh, this angle sucks balls. It's interesting because these bloody nuts, flange thingies are greasy. Okay. Alrighty. Well, the flange nuts come away. Okay, and then move on to the other side.
Cool.
Same procedure. Bring your tools with you, and then same procedure for this second cylinder. Here we are removing the factory system. So take your time. on this occasion, these flange bolts. These flange bolts are a little bit corroded. They're just a little bit corroded. So you don't make Luke Wright's mistake here, is for the last flange nut that sits deeper inside the cylinder for both sides, is if you get a tool like this in there, and then you put force down in order to start undoing the nut, what you'll do is the force of your tool will then put pressure on this edge here of the cylinder, and you could actually mark the cylinders. You could actually mark the black factory paint and mark it. And if you mark it, well, you damage that beautiful line because the force of your tool has pushed the paint in. Yeah, you're not repairing that. You're not going to fix it. So what you can do, if you love your motorcycle, love your R NineT Racer, is what you can do to help yourself is take a smaller tool like this with an adjuster that will get in that gap, and then you can put your force down to undo the flange nut, but the tool isn't coming into contact with the cylinder. Now, if you're a petrol head and you love your baby, that's a top tip for you. Recording. Okay, we've got to be careful though, because see what we do. Well, okay, so Luke Wright can actually see that there is a problem with this, because what's going to happen is that as this releases, this is a real pain in the butt actually. What we want to do is have a little bit of give between. Okay, this is where we've got to be very careful now at this point, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to damage little things like actually it's not easy when you've got to do this by yourself, because it doesn't want to just come away, you know. I mean, this one's happy to come away, but it's the jack. The jack is in the way. It's stopping the jack is actually in the way. It's actually in the way, to be honest. Are we completely free? We are. Okay, we are completely free. That's this exhaust clamp. This exhaust clamp is in the way. We'll manoeuvre out of the way. We don't want to scratch the frame. Yeah, that's the problem. What we don't want to do is we don't want to scratch the beautiful BMW frame. Obviously here, we don't want to damage it or mark it. Obviously BMW had the reason, but if we could just, on the money, let's bring the Okay, it looks like we've been very good as well. We've been able not to get marks on the ports themselves, so that is fan-bloody-tastic. Now, God, Luke Wright is making all sorts of noises now, isn't he? Now we need to somehow bring this massive BMW system. Stop it. Again, we don't want to mark the so we don't want to mark the cylinders. Do you know what Luke Wright means? We don't want to mark the cylinders, damage the engine casing, or mark it in any way. We want this just to release. Some other things we actually might be able to do is if we pull the jack out of the way. Oh god, and just let the exhaust system rest. Okay. Check for any potential damage on the paintwork side of things on this edge here. But it looks good. We have cleared a massive great big ports on the R NineT Racer, on this classic superbike. Don't just instantly now fit the titanium headers, because actually on having a good look, closer inspection, is you can see there's a difference between the exhaust port and there's like a silver ring going around there. That's not a part of the actual engine block. That is a exhaust gasket that was crushed in during factory when it was first fitted. But the thing is this gasket, they're designed to be crushed in, and now this gasket, we can't be absolutely certain that it's going to actually perform its job and create a seal. So we're just being very careful with the pick and trying to get into the edges of the gasket just to help start breaking it free, and also being careful not to scratch the outer engine casing at the same time, or diving into the port, so you can actually feel it starting to break away. You just got to pick an edge, start working it, then take your pick, and eventually it's going to come out. But take note of the orientation it's coming out, and it has to come out as one piece. Okay. And there are divots in there. Welcome to the Akrapovic system. Ain't it a sight? Don't you want to stare at it? What we're going to do before we make any more progress is, what you can actually do is take a can called WD-40, and we're just going to wipe down the titanium, wipe it all down so it's looking as pretty as possible, and then we're going to get started. How exciting is that? Feel how light this is. This titanium system is. Oh yeah. So what we can do is use a liquid called WD-40. Really amazing, very powerful liquid. Outstanding. And what it can do is safely clean the titanium for you without risking putting anything on there that you shouldn't. And as well, it's going to make the titanium look nice and shiny. And Luke Wright's, honestly, he can't emphasize this enough. You must wear gloves when handling titanium. Okay, you must wear gloves. You cannot get your skin, your oils on the titanium, or once the BMW 1200cc beast of an engine fires up and heats up this titanium, you will then get a burn mark in your titanium from the oil left by your hands. And once that happens, you can't clean it off. It's burnt into the titanium. So you don't want that to happen. Even if you want to, every so often, change your gloves, even that's a good idea. The way to look at it, everybody at Luke Wright, is think about the fact that gloves are a heck of a lot cheaper than titanium. So don't be afraid to change your gloves every so often. So that's the titanium cleaned up using beautiful WD-40. And now we need to start putting this puppy together. We actually need to start putting this unit together now. So we're going to do that And this is the collector pipe here, which sits. Oh my god! Bloody hell! It even rotates inside. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. It rotates inside. Ah, right. It rotates inside, but Luke Rider's assuming what you've got to do actually. Oh yeah. Wow. Whoa, isn't that interesting? You got to do it in such a way that the collector lines up with the springs. Are going to be going inside. Whoa! That hold this entire system together. So make sure what you've got to do is just take your time and line where the springs are going to be. Oh fucking hell, was that easy or what? Oh, that's interesting. Is that right? Okay, that can't be right. Why does one side look longer than the other? Fuck me, one side is longer than... Oh, there is actually a difference. Check that out. There actually is a difference. There really is. So, actually, one pipe here is longer into the upper collector, and the right hand cylinder has a shorter pipe going into the collector. Wow. That's really interesting. Lucas did not know that. Wow. Isn't that fascinating? There is like a reason why. Yeah. Try not to smash the titanium into each other. Wow, this isn't easy. What the fuck? Alright, this really isn't easy. What the hell's going on here? Yeah! Stop being a fighter! Stop fighting it! Oh, God damn it! Oh! Oh no! No! Oh, don't come apart! Hey! Get back in! Hey! What the motherfucker? Oh my god! That goddamn jigsaw! Okay, so that's what we want. Somehow this is all going to line up. Which you'd assume would just kind of happen naturally as it all comes together. Ooh. Whoa. Whoa. Ah, okay. So you need to bring the... Right. Okay. Luke Rice's starting to understand the titanium now. Which is you've got to bring the longer pipe into the shorter pipe, and the shorter pipe into the longer pipe, and it all just comes together. Eventually. Luke Rice said that, eventually. Eventually it all just comes together. You don't want to bend or damage the titanium either. That does not feel like it's as in as it could be. Does it? No. That does not look right, does it? What's Luke Ride's missing here? Luke Ride's is missing something in this hole. It feels like it's supposed to go in a little bit further than this. Oh, spring. Oh yeah, spring holes match up, so that's good. We now have the full titanium system together. In the beginning we did it with Luke Rides and an amazing family. We noticed that there was a problem where the upper headers were at an angle. So we've just been spending time actually taking the upper headers out, figuring out what the problem is, and then lining the upper headers back up, pushing it all together, tapping in the right areas. Akrapovic say that if you need to, you can use a rubber mallet if necessary, and what you want to do, what can help, is a technique where if you take the, say this piece of the upper header and slide it in and out of this joint while rotating it at the same time, and you're engraving like a marker into the titanium of how far you need to go to be absolutely sure you really have put the joins in as far as they can go, and then finished with springs. So now you need to make sure there's no springs on the flanges. As you can see here, we need to make sure there's no springs, and then have your flange nuts ready. Gaskets, we have genuine BMW Meeyaradee gaskets from the factory for our outstanding R NineT Racer. So let's remove the upper springs, and we've also really cleaned the system using a rag and as well rag and WD-40 as well. Alrighty, let's give this a whirl. Yeah, this is bloody awkward. Oh, wow, the spring's tight. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Okay, hello everyone at Luke Rides. What a mission, taking off the exhaust flange, taking the actual header, taking the entire system off the mighty BMW race bike. So, this is the next stage. We need to remove this clamp here, because actually a different piece is going to go in its place. Because it is a titanium straight pipe, it means that this clamp is too wide in order to fit. So we actually need to remove this clamp. We'll be staring at this clamp. We need to remove it. We have to remove it from the BMW race bike, classic race bike. But you're probably wondering, hang on a minute, I can't see a bolt head. What do I do? How do I get this clamp out of the way? Luke Rides, kids, you not everybody, watch this. Oh, it just wiggles off. Be careful with the frame again. What you're doing as well by cleaning that area up is you're actually giving the tool or the socket that's going to go in there a bit of an easier time, plus it clears out all the gunk in that area that could get in the way of the tool. So in this area here where the catalytic converter once was, this is the exhaust hanger clamp that it sits on, and it's fixed in place by two T30 Torx. Now the Torx to the right hand side, you can get a ratchet in there, not too hard, small ratchet, and you'll be able to get to that Torx bolt on the right hand side, which is easy. But it's the top left one that's a bugger, because the top left one is in a very small gap, a very small space, and it has this very interesting BMW connector in there. So you'll be wondering, well, I can get this ratchet there, and this is where you need quite a thin tool like this from Blue Point that will just about get you in there, where you can then just push that electrical wire just out of the way, and you can get your T30 socket on that one to the top left.
And then if you're in Britain or Europe, you would then push that way to undo. But that just took a little bit of figuring out, because trying to get a ratchet on that Torx bolt to the top left was not happening, and it was like, well, how else are you supposed to undo that? That's why you have a tool kit with all these special tools and that just help you through these difficult dilemmas. And that one is now loosened off, and that one is loosened off, and now we need to undo this bracket, as an Akrapovic titanium bracket is going in its place. Woohoo!
And now what we'll do is give this puppy the good clean that it deserves. So it's a bit of a I just slid in nice and easy. So that is Akrapovic instructions are that we're to take the factory BMW exhaust header clamp bracket, and that is to sit into this rubber booty for Akrapovic, and this will fix the titanium in place where the catalytic converter used to be, and that's feeling pretty rock solid. Makes life a little easier. Now on to the next stage. Can do as well is you're just going to clean off the studs and the flange nuts go, and you're just going over the threads, removing any little bits of dirt or anything that could get onto those threads. Luke Rod's found that they actually weren't out greasy from the factory, so no grease required.
Back on.
Smart.
Smart move.
I like it.
That's it. And then repeat on the side.
And the other side. Thank you. Alright, well you can. It's like the work, isn't it? Try and make your life as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know which hole I need to aim for. And then just pull it back. Have a spring flange. Far out, ma'am. Yay. There you go, flange. Now the springs are ready to go. And less factory. Don't cross thread them. Go on, you find your thread. There you go. You're happy now, aren't you? That's one. Now I can focus on the exhaust hanger and then move on to the sleeves. Alright. Oh well. So everyone at Luke Rice, here is a top tip from the amazing Debbie, because she has been able to see this a little bit outside the box, which is to make life easier for yourself, because each sleeve has its own Akrapovic exhaust spring. You're going to need to pull the spring to the hook on the header pipe. Now it's easier if you put the hook inside on the flange hole, because that way you can then take your hook tool, pull the spring back, put the spring closest to you, and then just pop it onto the hook, and you're sorted, aren't you? We're using the flange nuts just to keep the Akrapovic titanium in place, because the next port of call is going to be the exhaust hanger, which we now need to line up, start getting the torque bolts in there. Don't have to tighten them down, just need to get a good bite in there, get the bolts in, and then you can work on this area of the titanium system. So it's coming together bit by bit, hour by hour. Now happy that the O2 sensors are torqued down as much as possible, and there's no twist in the wiring itself. We have two springs either side of where the sleeves actually go into the cylinders here. Now in the titanium Akrapovic Exotica there is a hook where Luke Wright's finger is, on the same location as well on the second cylinder sleeve.
the hook will be identical the other side in the same place. And so what we need to do now is we need to take, very carefully, begin to install the O2 sensor. What we don't want to do as well is we don't want to damage the frets. We're going to install the O2 sensor. Remember that little twist that we did? Now, you're happy that you've done that. So that was counting, it's more like 5 turns. Okay, so Luke Ryan's actually, that felt more like 5 turns. So I'm going to twist the O2 sensor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I'm going to put it into the thread with the titanium Akrapovic headers. And see how the wire is now not looking so twisted. See, it's not looking so twisted now, which is what you want. That is so important. You don't want to put a twist in the O2 sensors. So once you're happy you've tightened the O2 sensor hand tight, you're then going to take a 22mm spanner and you're going to lock it off. You're going to tighten the thread. Where we twisted it, we twisted the O2 sensor opposite way round. Then locked it off. Okay. Give that cable a good feel. Doesn't feel twisted. And again, lock off the O2 sensor. That feels pretty tight. And that's it. Your O2 sensors are not only installed, but they're installed the proper way without leaving the wires in a twist that will eventually cause the O2 sensor, potentially the wire inside, to fray and then split and then be damaged. So well done. And really you just need to take the spanner, nip it up pretty tight, so you nip it up as far as the spanner will go, and you've torqued it down, and the wire feels pretty good. There's not much twist in it now. That's pretty outstanding. The flange nuts, we need to now torque them down and secure them as well. What is brilliant is, because this is a huge upgrade and a big job on the R NineT Racer, we have actually gotten the R NineT Racer, classic race bike, classic superbike, its own fresh, genuine BMW flange nuts. So at least when you fitted something this beautiful and high performance, that seeing rusty nuts is something you don't see, that you just get a nice finish to torque them down on both cylinders. Get a decent quality torque ratchet, and what you're looking for is the click. That click, that means you've reached 22 Newton meters. That's the top flange nut. But you now need to also torque down the bottom as well, and making sure that your tools, as you're applying force, is not hitting the engine casing
or any paintwork as well. Try not to do that to yourself. Yeah. Oh no, that's an old one.
Is it?
That's an old one as well because it's corroded.
Okay. What I'd recommend is tightening them evenly. Don't nip them down to their final torque until they're both nipped up, because you don't want to crush the washer unevenly.
Ah, that's right. That's a good point. Thank you, Debbie. That's a good point. What you can do is, because you have a exhaust gasket that is designed to crush down. As you apply torque, as you torque down, the sleeves, that you apply the torque evenly. By what Lucarides actually means by that is, take the first nut, tighten it down, give it a few rotations with the ratchet, and then take the socket off the top flange nut, and then go to the bottom flange nut, and then do the same with that one. Just a few rotations, as best you can, in that tight space. Go back to the top. And you're going to as well. Give that a few rotations. So you're applying the force evenly. You can actually see the sleeve moving towards the cylinder, which is quite interesting when you've seen it all happen in reality. And what you're doing is you're applying even force on the crusher washer, crusher gasket, so when the sleeve hits it, it's being crushed all round evenly which is good. That's good for the gasket. That's good for making a good seal as well. That's very good. Again, you're going to move down to the bottom one. Trying to be careful with the titanium system as well. You don't want to help it. You don't want to scratch it. Scratch that exotic system. Ooh. You don't want to scratch it. You don't want to damage it. You don't want to do jack shit to it. Okay, Lucarides is just starting to feel now the flange nut's just starting to get tighter. Now getting nice and tight now, real tight. And again, you're trying to apply that torque down evenly, which is good. You can actually hear the crushing taking place now. I'm waiting for the ratchet to click, like so. Okay, great stuff. Click twice. Usually, what happens if you click a ratchet, torque ratchet, twice, it either means it's just confirmation that you have hit the torque, gotten to the torque dead on. And once you're happy that the sleeves are flange nuts are torqued down on both sides, then you need to fit these forward springs from the sleeve into the hooks built into the titanium system. You're going to need a hook tool, and you just got to be patient and pull the spring back as much as you can, and get at an angle where it eventually goes into those hooking pieces. It's not easy. And the same as well on this side. Forward springs fitted, which is outstanding. Okay, so we have a bit of success here at Lucarides. The titanium system is now at least in place,
in place, and now by manipulating the exhaust hanger we've also been able to line it up to the bolt holes in the engine casing. So when Luke Rice says bolt holes, get the camera in there, there's one at the top left, and then the other side is your secondary, which is kind of back here, and then you've got your top one there. So what you're going to do is reuse the original BMW Torx bolts, and then we're just going to thread them in by hand and then take it from there. As we install the aluminium Torx bolts, we can now put a little bit of what is called Loctite. This is Loctite 270, and this is just going to help strengthen the threads as we bind them in. You just need a small dab, you don't need very much. And then what we're going to do is, because we are going into the engine block, what we don't want to do is what is called cross threading. It's called cross threading, which is where you are installing the bolt, and then because it hasn't quite gone in straight, is where the bolt will then you can't see. I can't fucking see shit because the pipe is on the face. Please just bugger off. Please do not get me at the paddock stand. Great stuff. Okay, so 2 sensors, flange nuts, and exhaust hanger as well. All torqued down as much as possible. And now, and again, if you really want to, just go back up there in that very tight space. I knew you could get a ratchet so super tiny. It's really helpful though to have a super tiny ratchet. It's like super tiny, man. It's like super tiny. Like Superman tiny. Not Superman tiny. Good man's like, whoa, Superman, Superman. They're like Superman. I love Superman. Be careful not to ram off the heads.
Good God.
Accent, you notice me? Maybe amazing Meeyaradee working on all this, working on a BMW. We need to undo both the Torx bolts either side
and then the top mount bracket is going to sit on top of this piece here, and we're actually going to reuse these bolts to fix on the exhaust bracket. Interesting. So we've run into a problem on the R NineT Racer. She's at Euro 4 and it has this charcoal canister system. So when you try to fit the Akrapovic high link pipe, it won't fit because this charcoal canister is blocking the high link pipe. But it is removable without causing the engine. It is a removable system. Using a horse drive extension on a ratchet to remove this black shield plate thing, as it's in the way. That's a massive module. And that is the shield bracket removed. Question is what to do next. Show me. Mazda Euro 4 R NineT Racer 2017. One clip. And now we're lining up the high link pipe and seeing what we're going to get. Just removing the lower screws of the T25, and I'll see if this unit moves. It does. I may have to release the two on the other side to get a little bit more perch before I can slide this up and under. Nice tie alignment. So make sure you're filming this entire bracket, please. Filming. So the way to set this bracket up is to have the bracket. Because these screws have top hats, they only fit through the piece of plastic. So it's screw, plastic, then this mount for the seat, then this bracket, and that is the correct layout. At that point, the bracket will fit, and the hoops, if you want, for the rear seat or whatever you've got on the rear of your bike will work properly. If you film from here, so again it's screw, plastic, then this goes underneath, then you mount. So all I'm going to do is start removing
the relay from everything that's holding on to it. Being very careful not to cut into the actual loom itself. Okay, only the cable tie gets cut. And all of a sudden what we're finding now is we have more space for this relay to be relocated. So again, I'm going to pop it inside of here, but I'm going to remove a lot of this outer nonsense and thin it out a bit. Okay. So the first thing to do with this outer casing is we need to thin it out a little so that we can stash it under there. So we're going to remove this part. There's a clip here. I'm holding the clip with my thumb. And then this piece is surplus to requirements, weight reduction. And now I've just got to work on this outer piece and see if that's removable too. It may not be. It may be part of the relay, but I'm still going to check it out anyway. So the only other clip I have on this connector block and relay is a tiny little clip here. And all that does is allow me to remove the relay, so I end up with this large connector block. I can't get this entire unit up into the motorcycle without lowering here. I just don't have enough space to put it in. So we're going to remove 4 screws under this unit, lower it slightly so we can get this connector block in and tidy it away. Okay. Right. So I'm going to take this relay. Now that I've undone the screws, I have enough space to pass this up and stop. And there it goes. And we're just going to snug it away up here where it can live out its days, out of the way of trouble. Because we don't want no trouble. And I think it's a much better option than
leaving it dangling near a hot titanium exhaust system.
than cable tying it. So this is the relay now tuckable underneath the driver's seat. So this is the relay that we can now stash underneath the rider's seat, not in anyone's way. Just tighten them by hand and I'll knit them up. Can I have some light, please? Can't see. And now the other two. And you can see the space it's already freed up, having the relay removed. One of these is for the evap canister, which I'm about to remove, and the other one is a tank overfill. So I will cable tie it somewhere out the way, maybe extend it, and just keep it nice and tidy.
is a bit of a close-up. And it's these two hidden ones here. So what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to move the foot peg and the gear shifter, try to move them to one side enough that we can get a tool in. And we can get that Torx bolt behind the R90. We can just get behind it and see if we can undo it.
Time to take off the rear sets and fit the exhaust.
Titanium.
So we're just reattaching the rear sets. So we've got the rear set back on. The exhaust is tightened up here. This one's only loosely tightened up because we're just still getting everything kind of in place. And then we'll be tightening up the exhaust clamps in a moment, but for first, we couldn't resist the opportunity to fit up the carbon heat shields. Akrapovic have placed Loctite on the screws so that we don't have to. Oh, it's just threading so beautifully. It's a precision instrument. I'm only going to tighten it hand tight. Yay! It's a really beautiful craft build. There you go, they're nice and tight now. Flapping it away, flapping it away. I'm just nipping up the carbon fibre heat shields from Akrapovic. Looks good. You can see the logo through the heel guard. It's like, whoa, nice. Alright, let's do some springs before we do the top one. And the reason we're going to do the springs before we do the top carbon fibre guard is if anything goes wrong, we don't want to catch ourselves on it and risk scratching it. Akrapovic have kindly provided us with 2 short and 2 long. It's nice that the rubber has their logo embossed in it. I'm going to say the longer ones look alright, but we'll also measure up the short ones. Kind of cool that they gave us both. It's going to be quite a stretch. The long ones, I could fit my hand. Chandler! Perfect fit, man. So just measuring up the exhaust springs. Akrapovic have given us 2 long and 2 short. The long ones I seem to be able to fit them by hand. It doesn't serve much of a purpose, although it could adjust, I suppose. And the short ones might just do it. It's going to be a bit of a stretch, but I think we can do it. This is a spring tool. Does that seem extreme to you? Let's see what we got. Short spring, but it doesn't seem... Seems like it's going to be under some serious tension. So I'm using a spring tool here in order to fit the spring. One of the things I don't want to do is scratch the exhaust. So I'm using my thumb to cover the end of the spring tool. And when fitting a spring, you always have the pointy bits on the inside. You never have them on the outside. Nice. Let's fit the top one. So here's the top spring. Make sure the Akrapovic logo is facing out towards us. And then I'm going to use my spring tool. And the pointy end always goes in. Don't do it the opposite way around. I'm going to cover the spring tool with my fingers so that I don't end up scratching the exhaust. I think the owner would be too happy if that happened. Nice bit of tension. And that's the springs fitted. They look great. How's that looking?
Outstanding. What a mission this has been so far, everyone, on YouTube. This is how we are looking so far. We have the top mounts, which are those supplied by BMW Meeyaradee. BMW had this mount piece actually made in Italy, which is quite interesting. So at the end can is held by springs between the high link pipe and the end can. But we need to figure this out. We also had to remove the charcoal canister system from the R NineT Racer. And this little nib here is sticking out of the left-hand side cylinder. We have to block that nib off somehow, off from the air, from the atmosphere, before you dare start this engine. So we need to figure that out. And we've removed the car stock, but there's also tidying to do here, because we have the servo body just dangling down near the rear shock, and we also have a module as well that was attached to the charcoal canister that's just dangling down. So we need to figure that out, and then we need to manipulate the titanium Akrapovic system so it lines up with the lower mount. Oh, such a big, I mean, we've got tools, so many different kinds. Yeah, this is turning into a mega complex upgrade. And then Christ just can't do it on his own. He's tried, but he's just getting stuck and stuck and stuck. And luckily the amazing dad, I love Dad to bits, love the dad in the world. He has loads of experience with previous motorcycles, and we're just working this whole upgrade through together, and we're actually starting to make some progress. That's how the R NineT looks without being tidied up. You can even see the rear wheel on that single-sided wheel. And look at that black Akrapovic tin can with a carbon fibre tip. And being a classic race bike, and being a classic superbike, a hark back to how superbikes used to be, black is very fitting, because on the modern superbikes they have that carbon fibre Akrapovic style, just like this. So very cool. And then we have our outstanding tail tidy as well, by Evo Performance. Lovely.
So now we're going to fit the top carbon fibre heat deflector. It's real nice that they made this especially for the BMW itself. And all I'm going to do is just thread the screws in by hand to avoid any chance of cross-threading and get a little bit excitable with your tools. So it's nice just to feed the screw in by hand first. Make sure that it's running real nice. And I'm going to just use a quarter drive handle to get me a little further in. Still a little loose, so I'm going to swap over to a quarter drive ratchet now. Could get a bit of light on here. And I'm just evenly tightening them up. And trying to make sure that the carbon's centered. Just feeling it starting to pinch the carbon. These screws have already had Loctite applied to them by Akrapovic. There's no need for me to apply any. And again, I'm feeling them pinching the carbon. I don't need to just keep tightening until I can't tighten anymore, or I will crack the carbon. Wow. Down. Yeah. Are you happy with it like that?
Yeah, you're
Can't
happy.
actually tighten it like that though. If I hide this,
Yeah.
here. I think I might have to extend onto it. But yeah, one's facing up, one's facing down there. Need a shorter extension on that. Get onto it. Kinda. We've done a really nice finish here where the exhaust clamps on the BMW R NineT Racer, a classic superbike. She has 2 exhaust clamps here, and what's nice is that the bolts through both exhaust caps are facing down, and the threads are at the top on both exhaust clamps, so it just looks just really neat, really tidy. You know, you could argue you're not going to really see this area here once the R NineT is on side stand or off the paddock stand, but you know, when you know you've worked in this area, and you know, if you look in this area and you find that on the exhaust clamps that you've accidentally put the exhaust clamp, say this one, in such a way that the head of the bolt is at the top, but that's not, but the head of the bolt on the furthest exhaust clamp is at the bottom, you just know it doesn't, you know, in your head you know that just doesn't look very neat. So that was cool. It was really easy to sort out. It was just a matter of loosening the bolt off completely, taking the bolt out, and then you can actually then if say the bolt is here at the top, if you loosen off the bolt and take it completely out, say the head of the bolt is at the top, then just turn the bolt the other way around, and then you'll tighten up the bolt in such a way that the head's now going to be at the bottom, just like the furthest exhaust clamp back there. So tidy. So now what you're going to work on is going to work on this area, because there is actually a battery tray cover that lives in this area. So we're going to try and put it back on. Here. And that's the frame. This is the piece we just sprayed the Bulldogs BDX, and already you can see the difference in how lovely and shiny it is, and less fingerprints. That's the area where the Bulldogs BDX hasn't attacked yet, and you can see all the fingerprints and marks. Bulldogs BDX, no Bulldogs BDX. Bulldogs BDX, no Bulldogs BDX. Nah, let's get cracking. So this is where you are going to run into a problem. Now, underneath the tail tidy, there is a hole here. That hole is where this bolt needs to go through to secure the seat cover, the rear hump. The problem is that the wiring loom is in the way inside the hole, right where the bolt is trying to get into. So what we're going to do is we've just gently undid 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 bolts holding the tail tidy in place. Not undone them all the way, we've just loosened them off. So now we're going to have a go at manipulating
See how now the wiring loom, there's a bit of wiggle, bit of freedom here. I'm going to move the wiring loom in such a way, just by manipulating the cables, so that when the wiring loom is not blocking the access hole. And you'll say, why is that a problem? Well, it's because if the indicator wiring loom is in the way, then as you try and do up the bolt, then all you're doing is you're just tightening into the wiring loom. You could damage the protective sheathing here, beautiful BMW factory weather shielding around the cables. You can actually start digging into the actual wiring itself, and you'll damage all of this electrical system. So if you look, you can see now, just by manipulating the wires, we are clearing the hole where the hump needs to be. Manipulate the cables until you're happy, and then when you're happy, retighten the 4 bolts here. The iPhone could be bothered to focus. Retighten the 4 bolts here, and again rechecking the hole is still clear, and you're good. Right, we're now going to retighten 4 bolts underneath the tail tidy. You're going to need a T15. What we're going to do is we're going to tighten up the 4 bolts underneath by hand, and every so often checking that the wiring cables are not inside this hole. awesome. This bolt is crucial. This secures the rear seat and rear hump. It is an M6 30mm button head bolt thing. It also comes with an M6 washer in black, Aero Performance, so that's great. So what we're going to do is you're going to put the washer onto the bolt, and then we're going to feed it through.
trust that you all found that pretty interesting. A lot to do, you know, even though the R9T is a naked classic race bike, it is and it has the bikini fairing style, which was a race style back in the 70s. Still so much to disassemble and then reassemble, because the Akrapovic system is built into sections, whereas the factory BMW system is one complete piece and welded, so it's designed to last the life of the motorcycle in theory. But the Akrapovic is far more interesting and more complex. But yeah, hopefully you've learned quite a bit today. Thank you for watching.
The way we...
The little rascal has spirit. As was it?
This is the end of the trail for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, kid.
Of course, we're gonna have the Luke Ryan signature coffee. Yeah.